Caitlin and welcome to my channel. Last year I did some seasonal reading recaps just to kind of go over what all I had been reading throughout the year. And the year before that I had actually done monthly reading recaps, and this year I have decided that I want to go back to monthly. So this video is a recap of everything I read in January and everything I hope to read in February. Now that being said, this is probably going to be one of the saddest reading recaps I have ever done because I've only read one book this month and I'm in the middle of another one. Barely in the middle is probably an exaggeration because I'm at the very beginning of that book, but I will kind of get into more details about what caused this and how I only read one book. And that book is none other than Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambo. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars on Fable. I should also let it be known that I actually have not touched Goodreads at all this year. It was originally my intention to keep up Fable and Goodreads. I might update Goodreads every once in a while whenever I'm feeling up to it or if I ever have some free time and just want to. But I will probably be more focused on the app Fable, so make sure to follow me over there. Now, going into this book, I was really excited because unfortunately I am the kind of person that will judge a book by its cover. And I mean, look at this cover. It's so cute. I think it is so beautiful. And the concept of this world just looks so amazing, right? I started it at the beginning of January. And as of the day that I'm filming this, January 29th, I just finished it. Right before filming this video. But like I was saying, I really wanted to like this book, but I just couldn't get into it. And because of this book, I had my worst reading slump in 3 years because I only read this book and a little bit of another book, which I will get to in just a minute. I think that maybe if I had made some time to sit down and just read like I will sometimes do for a video, then maybe I could have enjoyed this a little more, because I will admit most of the time when I picked up this book, it was when I had a little bit of time before I had to go into work or just read a couple of chapters before I fell asleep. But I just couldn't get into this book. Whenever I was actively reading it, I was really enjoying it, but the minute I closed it, the minute I set it down, I didn't ever want to pick it up again. I didn't want to continue reading it. And despite the fact that I told myself that I would allow myself to DNF some books this year because I have a really bad problem with reading books that I just don't end up liking, but insisting that I have to see it through to the end because what if it gets good? I didn't do that because I'm stubborn. I wanted this book to be something that I loved so bad, and it's just not. I think one of the problems for me is that the world just felt really big, and it was kind of hard to keep up with all the places and the lore and the characters. There was just a lot going on. I feel like if this had been even just spread across 2 books, it would have been a lot more digestible because we could have explored certain areas for longer or certain characters or their backstories. But because it was all in one book, it was obviously very condensed and almost felt rushed. I also didn't like that basically every single chapter left on a cliffhanger because it almost felt like the author was trying to convince you to continue reading instead of just writing well. Does that make sense? It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to keep reading it because I was interested in the story, but I wanted to keep reading it because, oh, this chapter left on a cliffhanger. I gotta see what happens in the next chapter. Oh, this chapter also left on a cliffhanger. Gotta see what happens in the next chapter. But it was like that with every single chapter. So it was just a constant pull, but never any give, if that makes sense. I don't know. Also, the main female character, Hannah, was constantly lying, like constantly. And to a degree, I kind of understand it. Like, there was one twist at the end of the book which made total sense for her to have been lying the entire time about. But there were just a lot of things along the way that she was keeping to herself or hiding or lying about to the main male character, whose name I forgot. Hold on. Keishan, I think is his name. And it was almost always because she was trying to keep someone safe, whether it was herself or this new person in her life or her friends or her family. She was trying to keep someone safe, but it only ever put her and the guy in danger. Like, only ever made things worse for them because he was never like fully up to speed, or like the people that they encountered didn't know the like gravity of the situation. And it just felt like very selfish almost in a way, which I didn't like, because she doesn't seem like a selfish character. Like, the things that she was doing and the way that she was acting were obviously very not selfish, but her actions, or like lack thereof, almost portrayed her as that. I don't know. I didn't like it, unfortunately. And again, this book is the only book that I read all the way through in January, which makes me want to die a little bit, if I'm being completely honest, because I usually read so many more books, especially in the beginning of the year, because I'm so motivated to read again. But I could not get through this book. And because I could not get through this book, I didn't want to pick up another book, because if I picked up another book, I knew I would never finish this one. And again, being too stubborn to DNF it, so I had to finish it. And now I kind of regret putting in this much time and effort, because I didn't love this book, unfortunately. Now, like I've been saying a little bit, there was one other book that I was kind of reading at the same time, though I haven't gotten very far into it. I, according to Fable, am 9% into this book, if that tells you anything. And that book is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. What I have read of this book, I've really enjoyed so far and found very interesting and intriguing. It's funny because a friend actually read this and then recommended it to me. And when I was looking into it and she was kind of telling me a couple of the things that she was learning from this book, I bought the book, obviously, and it sat on my shelf for a while. And then I was actually telling other people, like telling my other friends to read it before I had even started reading it, because I was so sure, and am still so sure, that it is so life-changing that I like need to recommend it to everyone. Again, I haven't really gotten very far into this book, but what I have read, there's been a lot of like very good insight, and it's just been very helpful. So I am very excited to continue reading this. And now we can move on to my February TBR. And I know that once I list literally more than 2 books for this next month, you might be thinking, Katelyn, that feels a little optimistic considering you only read 1 book in January. And to that I say, hey, that's mean. And also, I'm gonna get over this reading slump if it is the last thing I do, because I hate being in a reading slump. I literally hate it. It's the worst feeling ever of like wanting to read but not wanting to pick up a book. So if it is the last thing I do, I will get over this reading slump this month. That being said, let's get into it. First up, we have In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I am very pro bookstore, specifically like small bookstore when you can, and very anti buying books at grocery stores. And because of that, you might have noticed that this is the Target exclusive. And I'll admit, I'm a little ashamed, okay? I'm a little ashamed. However, the original cover of this book is not as pretty as this one. It just isn't. And I haven't bought anything from Target in well over, I want to say like 4 months, if not longer. So this one thing, and this is going to be the only time that I'm allowing myself to get a book at Target, is not going to kill me and is not going to shut down every single bookstore in America, Or at least that's what I'm telling myself, because if I don't tell myself that, then I will be convinced that if any bookstore shuts down, it's my fault. Anyway, I have read, I think maybe 1 or 2 books from this author before. Actually one other from this series. And I don't think she's necessarily my favorite author. I don't really look for her specifically when I am looking for books. Sorry, I just realized I was still holding the book up. I don't know why I was doing that. But I just think that the concept of this book, the plot, is very interesting. And I did like the other book from this series that I read, so I'm very interested to see if there will be characters that come back from that book, or if there will be any other tie-ins in that way. Next up, we have Meet Cute, A Countdown to Valentine's Day. And this book is actually written by multiple different authors. I found out about this book last year, and I unfortunately wasn't able to get it in time for Valentine's Day. But the concept is that there are 14 different short stories in this book, and they're all held together by a piece of tape. And so you're supposed to open one for every day starting on February 1st, leading up to Valentine's Day, and then you read the last one on Valentine's Day. And I just thought that was such a fun concept, and I really wanted to do it. So I made sure that I got this book this year, and definitely will be starting this on February 1st. Next up, we have Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. Now, if you're thinking that this book looks familiar specifically from my channel, it's because I have had it on my TBR before. If I remember correctly, it was actually on my fall TBR, but I just never got around to reading this book during that time period. And since it has a heart on the cover, and I think it's supposed to be a love story, I thought what a better time to attempt to read it again than February. Next, we have Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. And I don't think I'm pronouncing the author's name completely correctly. I did actually look up a video of how to pronounce it earlier, but I clearly forgot, and I am sorry. This book and the movie have become so culturally significant that it almost feels like a crime that I haven't read this book yet or watched the movie. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I want to change that, obviously. So I'm really hoping that I will get around to this book. And it's also a lot shorter than all the other books on my February TBR. So I'm hoping that I will definitely be able to get to this one. And as soon as I finish this book, I am absolutely watching the movie. Next, we have Cowboy Casual by Holly Renee. I bought this book, I want to say in December, from a small bookstore called Brightside Books and Wine, or it's actually right now called Brightside The Prologue because they don't have their permanent location open. They have a temporary location going on. It has been so long since I have read a cowboy romance book, and I have been meaning to get back to them because when I was reading them, I was really enjoying them. So I am very excited to dive back into this subgenre. And lastly, on my February TBR is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This book series has intrigued me for such a long time because I feel like I see a lot of book talk people talking about this series a lot. And I was able to get the special edition set on a secondhand website, and they just look so pretty. The original covers are fine. They're not ugly, but they're also not really beautiful. But these covers, are you kidding me? This is so stunning and so precious and so cute. And I love even just having them on my shelves, but I want to understand the hype behind this series. So at the very least, I am going to start the first book this month, but maybe even finish the whole series or get to the second book at the very least. I don't know. We'll have to see. And that is all the books that I have on my February TBR. I really am hoping that in this coming month, I will be able to get out of this reading slump, because I really, really, really hate being in a reading slump. I really do. And I am very optimistic because all of the books that I picked out are specifically books that I really want to read, not just books that like I think I'll want to read because it's February, but like stuff that I'm actually really excited to pick up. So I'm hoping that if nothing else, that motivates me a little bit, that I really want to read these books. But I almost feel like embarrassed from my January reading recap, if you can even call it that, since it was literally one book. But I know that this too shall pass, and that I will get over it, and that it will be okay. And also that even if I don't get over it, it's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. I will come back to myself and start reading more eventually, even if it isn't in the next like 2 hours. Anyway, that is all that I have for today's video. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!